Welcome back to another episode of Freedom Blueprint Podcast. I'm your host, Justin Deese, and I am hanging out today with Richard Kohberger, probably better known as the Blue Collar Nerd. What's happening, man?
What's going on, old friend? Good to see you.
It is good to see you, man. And it's been a while since we've really had a chance to catch up. And you got some really cool stuff going on. And yeah, everybody's going to get to kind of explore a little bit with me because it's been so long since we caught up. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Of course, happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
I know you're busy, and I know we want to talk about some things you have going on now. But before we get into that, I don't know how much people know about your experience in the trades because you were doing it for quite some time. So tell us a little bit about how you got into the trades in the beginning.
Yeah, so I was sort of born into the trades, I guess. My dad owns or owned, he sold it recently, but he owned a shop here in the Atlanta area. That's where I live. Um, and, I never really thought I would be involved with it. Like I was a theater kid. Like I was a nerd. I was into computers. I was into acting. Wasn't a big like sports guy. It just really didn't seem like my thing. Um, but once I got to college, where I did major in film and minor in theater, and uh, in between, I was doing acting gigs. Like I had an agent here in the Atlanta area, and I would audition and do the occasional TV show or movie, small roles. And during that time, like I just needed something to do. It just seemed like a good idea to have backup plan. It seemed like a good idea to have a skill in my back pocket. And it seemed like a good idea to do something with my summers other than sit around. So during that time, I rode with a technician at my dad's company, and I started learning the trades. And that eventually evolved into me being a technician on my own, but only for like a year because I wasn't wrong really. Like it really wasn't my thing. A lot of what I enjoyed about my time before that, I learned was built into the camaraderie of having another technician with me. So once I was by myself and that was gone, it really kind of hit me that like I don't actually know that I like this, and it was kind of a difficult realization for me honestly because at that point there were conversations like it was kind of the plan. It was in my head anyways that I was going to be taking over this business at some point, and then to sort of be hit with this wave of like I actually now that it's not like a camaraderie thing, um, I'm not having a good time anymore. But I stuck with it. Not, but I needed to make some sort of change. So I moved into the office, and it was a sort of a difficult transition. Like I don't know, it was a small family business, right? And my dad had always just run it by himself, and in his mind, anyways, it was like, well, there's not really anything for you to do in here. But in my mind, I was like, I don't know, man. I think there's a lot that could be done in here. So I just started getting my hands on stuff. Started messing with like inventory stuff. I started like labeling everything in the warehouse, rearranging everything, trying to implement some sort of at least loose inventory system. Got my hands on ServiceTitan, of course. Got my hands on, we started doing more things through ServiceTitan, like payroll, uh, digging into the reporting, and just more and more just weaseling around, getting my hands on everything that I could, um, so that I could learn and so that I could, I guess, prove myself. Like there was just something that was like, in me that was like, I need to show that I have some sort of value here because it didn't feel at the time like I was in a industry that welcomed me. Um,
Mm.
I I was much younger. Like my dad started taking me around to best practice groups and things like that. Service Nation, Blue Collar Success Group, where we met, and I was clearly an alien in that room. Like every time, I would just look around and see a lot of uh, old white men, but much older than me, and just from a different turn of life than me. There weren't a whole lot of theater kids hanging out in those rooms, and so I,
Yeah.
I always felt very alien. I always felt like uh, I don't want to say looked down on, like that's too strong of a phrase, but I just didn't feel like I fit in, and I didn't feel like my ideas matched with other people's ideas. And I actually give Blue Collar Success Group, you and Kenny, and later Chris Crew, a lot of credit for uh, being some of the first to really make me feel validated in the space. I feel like there could be a place for me, in this contracting world, because it was really kind of the first place that I felt like, um, even though I was still seen as different, it was a good thing. But my ideas being different, me looking at things from a different lens. Um, you guys seemed genuinely interested in hearing that, and would, kind of like stop the room and have people like, hey, listen to what Richard thinks about this. Like it was just very validating in a way that I hadn't gotten elsewhere. Because it made me feel like, hey, there's a place for me here. There's a place for my ideas here. Um, there's people here willing to evolve and like listen to ideas from, at the time, like a young, early 20s person.
Well, and,
It was
and I think the
also,
timing was perfect,
yeah,
right? Like that was the industry was shifting at the and so for anybody listening, we're talking probably 10 years ago, 8, 10, maybe a little bit more years ago. And at that point, it was still, Google wasn't what it is today. There was no LSA. ServiceTitan was coming on the scene, but it had only been around for a little bit. And there was that, there wasn't as much techie at that point. And really, and to your point, typically it was like you're either a revenue generator or you're not. Like there was almost like that delineation between the two is how we looked at the team. And I think that's changed a lot now, because now we understand the processes and how to utilize the system and how to make it work the way to better suit us. And I think there is such an incredible value with the technology side. And really 20 years ago there wasn't even Google. So
yeah,
it's a big shift. And I think timing was really nice on that.
yeah, a lot's happened, and the timing did work out really, really well with just, Service Titan coming up the way that it did right around this same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, Service Titan was something that I obviously like gravitated towards because it was the most tech thing that I could mess with, and that was what I was into. Just like as an individual in my free time, I like to build computers. It was just I was a tech guy, and I understood it, more easily. It came to me better than other people in the office and other people in the industry. There's still obviously a learning curve with anything, especially because it's not just a piece of technology. It comes along with, you have to understand the business on top of it,
And it evolves
and it
every day.
evolves a lot. Yeah, that's still my job, is keeping up with the evolution of it. Um, but I really gravitated towards it, and I started at that point sort of thinking about, okay, what can I do? Because I saw myself in this unique position where um, I developed a set of skills that was very unusual to exist inside of a single person. I knew a lot about this, contracting world and HVAC, and how to run an HVAC business. I had eventually, evolved up into director of operations, so I had my hands on a little bit of everything. But I also had this acting experience and this like theater kid in me. And I also had this understanding of technology that was becoming more and more relevant to this space. And it was a space at the time mainly made up of people who generally didn't touch it. They didn't understand it very well. They were somewhat intimidated by it in some ways. I was like, this seems like an opportunity here, because it's an unusual set of skills to have all together. I had always wanted to have some sort of YouTube channel, just because, like, most theater kids do. And I felt like, okay, well, that's an opportunity. Like, I have something to talk about here. I can help contractors understand technology better, because I speak both of those languages, so to speak. So I started a YouTube channel called Blue Collar Nerd. I again give Blue Collar Success Group a lot of credit in giving me the courage, the quote unquote
I
permission
remember
to
when
do
you
that.
called and you were like, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this thing." I was like, "That is one of the coolest things," because nobody was doing that. Nobody was talking about the techie stuff. Everybody was, sales and drive and so. Anyways, it was really cool when you said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." Like, I
Yeah,
think
I
that's
appreciate it, and
awesome.
I appreciate you guys, because like you guys were making sort of like that sort of content. It felt very alien, at least in the world of contracting, to hold up a phone and walk around and talk and upload that to a Facebook group or to YouTube. YouTube or whatever. I was like, I already feel like such an alien here. Like this feels embarrassing. So it was helpful to see you and Kenny and those guys like doing it. So I could say like, okay, somebody else in the space is doing it, and the entire industry is not pointing and laughing at them. So I guess I could
Plus, you
tell.
were professionally trained, my man. Like you had way better skills than we did, which I got to tell this story. This is two stories, actually. You came out to our house. We were in Arizona. We were hanging out one night. There may or may not have been some karaoke that was being played. And Kohberger was like jamming out on some karaoke. Like a week later, we're sitting down and we were like watching TV, and Nashville came on, and you had a part in the show Nashville. And my daughter was like, "Oh my gosh, that's no way. That's him." And then a little bit later, you were in a Wendy's commercial, and she saw that, and she's like, I didn't know that he was such a celebrity." I was like, well, now you know.
Yeah, that was the traditional acting stuff. It's
Yeah.
so fun, man. I love doing it, but it's also so much of a grind. Like the amount of auditions that you churn out to book one or two jobs a year is insane. I haven't done it in a while. I might pick it back up at some point, but I set it aside to generate a little bit of revenue.
No, well, and you got such a cool niche that you get to do these two worlds. I mean, and acting
Yeah,
nowadays, you just
it's great.
turn
I
on
mean,
your YouTube
I've
channel.
really
No big deal.
carved out a unique position, which I'm grateful for, because it's not like what I do today existed already and I got the job. It didn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
A job was created for me, and I'm very appreciative of that.
So let's dive a little bit into the Blue Collar Nerd. So you kicked off the Blue Collar Nerd. You started making videos, and then at some point there was a partnership created with ServiceTitan, right?
Correct. Yeah, there were some steps in between. For a minute, I was doing ServiceTitan consulting with Tom Howard. You might recognize.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
He started a little consulting company, and I worked there for a while, and eventually that he ended up at ServiceTitan. He was the guy that I was kind of like placing my bets on. So at some point I was like, you know what, let's see if we can have a conversation. And I was down there. I had like an interview with Ara, because ServiceTitan had kind of noticed at that point and started looking into his partnerships for how can we sort of connect, and maybe they were looking for product marketing type of videos that I could get the word out about their stuff, which I'm appreciative of also, because at early Blue Collar Nerd days were feedback oriented. Let's say I didn't hold back that there were things about ServiceTitan at the time that I wanted to see changed, and it could have gone very differently. They could have they could have not appreciated it as much as they did, but ServiceTitan's a good company. I work there now. I love working there, and I think the founders Ara and Vahe truly do care about the product and
Mm-hmm.
about the people that it affects, and the contractors. And I think that's demonstrated there, that when somebody gets on a camera and says this part of the product isn't very good and I don't like it, and here's all the reasons why, that they didn't try to shut me down. They said, you know what, you're right, and they
Right.
actually took action on a lot of those things. So I was very pleased, because I wasn't really sure how that was going to go, and I didn't really have a goal at that point. It was just like, let's just make content. The ServiceTitan stuff started taking off. Like, just the Blue Collar Nerd channel was really just technology. I was talking about all kinds of technology stuff, but I made a video talking about some ServiceTitan critiques. I made a video talking about ServiceTitan's releases, like when a new release came out, I would kind of read it over and talk about my thoughts. And that stuff really stuck. It stuck to the point that is still what I do today. That's what they hired me on partially for, is to continue making those release note videos that I was making before I worked there.
I know that we share those every time they come out. We watch them, we share them, we talk about them, which for anybody who doesn't follow Blue Collar Nerd on YouTube, definitely go do it. And I want to say this, my favorite video that I have shown, I don't even know how many times, is got to be the egg video about how much is your eggs.
Yeah.
How many times has that thing been played?
Oh man, I don't have the number in front of me, but last I checked, it was like close to like 50,000, 100,000 in that range, which for such a niche topic is pretty good.
Yeah, I'm surprised it's not way more. That is one of the best videos, well produced. I've showed it to our team multiple times. Anytime pricing comes up, I'm like, let's watch this video. And then they watch the video and they're like, oh, that does make sense.
Yeah, that one, people love that one. And that one, by the way, I still get people kind of confused about this. So Blue Collar Nerd partners with and works for ServiceTitan, but also exists as an independent. So there's a Blue Collar Nerd YouTube channel, and there's a bunch of Blue Collar Nerd content that lives on the ServiceTitan YouTube channel. I just wanted to clarify that because I get a lot of people like, "Where's that one video I went on your YouTube channel and I don't see it?" Probably because you're looking on the Blue Collar Nerd channel where I post my independent stuff. When you're looking for a release notes video, that's going to be ServiceTitan owned content made by Blue Collar Nerd living on the ServiceTitan channel.
So you just had to follow both.
You just gotta follow both. That's all
You
you
got to
gotta do.
follow
Follow
both, and
both
then it's
places.
good. Well, and then you get, obviously if you follow it on YouTube, then you get notified when things come out. And I know for me, when we get an email of Service Titan release note, I'm not going to read that. And I am probably 85% of other contractors out there. My first move is click and watch. I'm like, all
Yeah,
right, well, Richard, you can just tell me what's going on.
that's why I started doing it. I mean, I'm not much of a reader either. So I just can't synthesize the information that way. Um,
Yeah.
I've carved out a difficult position for myself because I have to synthesize it that way in order to make the videos.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that it helps so many people whose brain seems to work pretty similar to mine. We're just like sitting down and reading it. I don't really know what I'm looking at. I have to see demonstrations. I want to hear an example of how I could use that. So it's um, I'm just glad it helps people.
Yeah. So, okay. So I want to shift a little bit. Was there anything else you want to talk about with Service Titan?
Nothing in particular, no.
Okay. So, because I want to shift a little bit to what you've created now with your product. Product, man, is that the right word?
Yeah, we call it a
Product,
product.
sir. All right, we'll call it a product. The Ultimate Service Titan Guide. Um, walk us through what that is, what the idea was, what the goal is
So the
of
Ultimate
that
Service
product.
Titan Guide is a big old library of content where I'm covering Service Titan A to Z. So there's sections, there's modules for individual categories. So you'll have a dispatching module, call center, a price book, reporting, all sorts of stuff like that, broken up into sections, and you can kind of use it as a library. So it's I don't really think of it as a course. I think you can go through it one time as a course, but then there's so much information in there that nobody can reasonably be expected to remember it all. Not even me. I reference my own guide multiple times per week just to somebody ask me a question. I'm like, I know that I've said that out loud out of my mouth before, but I don't remember. So I have to go back. Um, there's nobody walking planet Earth right now, Justin, that knows all of Service Titan. Not me, not Ara, not the people who build it. Like because the people who build it build their section of it, and the rest of it not so much. They might have to integrate with that other section in some way, but nobody has a 100% understanding because it's an enormous, both wide and deep product. If you know what I mean, like it covers a lot of
Mm-hmm.
areas and it covers all of them very deeply. And it gets deeper and deeper as time goes on because Service Titan is getting into more and more different verticals and different silos, different areas of roofing, pest control, whatever it is. That's the way, at least one way in which they can expand their addressable
Well,
market.
and ever evolving, which is good. I think that scares a lot of people because it evolves. I can tell you that, and I won't name the software, but there was a software I was on before we moved to Service Titan, and we got on Service Titan really, really early. And the software we were on before, we had been on it a couple years, and nothing had ever changed.
Yep.
Nothing. There was no updates. There was no nothing. It did the same exact thing, which got to be honest with you, the techs loved that. They're like, it's the same thing every day.
Yeah,
There's never
sure.
any learning new things. And as the business owner, I'm thinking, no, there's stuff I need to know. I need to evolve. The marketing's changing. And I think that's one of the great things about what Service Titan does is that it's moving, it's growing, it's
Yeah,
evolving, which is what we have to have in business. So
always evolving, and that comes with challenges. I don't want to act like it
sure.
doesn't come with challenges, but if you don't do that, both ServiceTitan and the contractors that use it can't thrive. Things
Right.
change, times change, technology changes, and if you don't keep up, then yeah, you might have saved yourself a little bit of work and learning during that time where you were staying comfortable. But at some point, you got to pay the piper. It just comes up that you suddenly aren't competitive anymore, and so you have to evolve, and you have to change, and that's part of what the guide is designed to help with, because the guide is made to evolve and change with ServiceTitan. Although, and by the way, the guide is a paid product. You don't have to pay me to keep up with ServiceTitan. I do the free release notes videos on the ServiceTitan YouTube channel, publicly available. Anybody can watch those. But the guide is made for people who like my teaching style and just want a whole lot more of it. The guide allows me to really dive deep into every single aspect of ServiceTitan that I can't really do on the public channel, just because ServiceTitan is keeping me so busy over there with new stuff coming out, and because just the nature of publicly releasing stuff on YouTube, I can't assume what you already know. If I make a
Hmm.
guide with all of this content, if I want to dive deeper into a topic, but do they know about dynamic pricing though? I don't know. So maybe I have to explain that first. When I'm within the guide, I can assume, there's a video on dynamic pricing. I can assume you've already watched that based on just the order of this module. So it allows me to go a lot deeper into certain topics and help people who are just starting on ServiceTitan, as well as people who have been using it for 5, 6, 7 years and want to get really advanced. It's helpful for both of those kind of groups.
Yeah, I tell you, one of the things that I really really like about it is that it's easy to search. So if you're looking for something, it's not like you just go to customer service and you have to watch 100 hours of videos. You can actually do some searching and narrow down what you're looking for. So it's definitely a quick guide, I would say.
Yeah, that was really important to me. It took me a long time to find a platform that could facilitate that. What I wanted was all of the videos to be transcribed, searchable, so that when you needed to find something, you could do that without having to. That's the challenge with video, right? Is that I like it better in that when I watch a video, I understand better than when I read something. But
Hmm.
when you have 100 plus videos like exists within the guide, and you need to find a piece of information quickly, video is challenging in that way. So I needed everything to be transcribed so that people could search for it, which we have within the guide now. And I'm glad I was able to find something that can do that. There's also a little AI bot that you can speak to that's trained on all of the content in the guide.
It's pretty cool. We Kristen started using it with her and her team as soon as it came out, and I always wait for her feedback. And she's like, "This is really cool." And so all the people on her team, they obviously use ServiceTitan, and a lot of them are new to ServiceTitan. So it's really helped them ramp up very quickly to know what it is they're looking for without having to get into, like, her team doesn't need to know about dispatching, so they don't watch and get into the dispatching stuff. They need to know about the accounting and the reporting. So it's definitely, if you have not, let me ask you this: how do people find out more about the guide?
Yeah, if they're interested in the guide, they can go to bluecollarnerd.com. I've got a little video on there that explains a little bit deeper about what it is, shows you inside a little bit, and then the pricing is listed there as well. It's transparent pricing, and you can cancel at any time. There's both a monthly and annual plan. If you go monthly, it's month to month, cancel anytime. If you go annual, you get a bit of a discount for paying up front. So you have already paid for the year, but you can still cancel anytime if you don't want to pay for the next year. It's really not my goal to trap anybody or anything like that. Not it's just not. I'm not a very good salesman, Justin. I never have been. This is how I sell things. I'm like, if you want it, there it is, have it. But if you don't, whatever. So that's just how I am. If like I said, there's plenty of free content out there. My
Hmm.
content plus ServiceTitan has the knowledge base. ServiceTitan has ServiceTitan Academy. But if you just don't like those styles, if reading the knowledge base isn't how information sinks in for you, or if the academy just style of video, they're just more corporate videos. For better for worse, they're more corporate videos. you prefer my style, I offer this, and I'd be happy to have you in there.
All right, so let me give the sales pitch for you, because
Yeah, yeah,
here's the
great.
deal.
Sure. You're hired.
It is awesome. It is a great guide. It is one that we use. And I would say this for anybody who's using ServiceTitan, use it for a month. Go use it for a month. I promise you, if you actually log in and you actually use it, you're gonna love it. If you pay for a month and you never log into it, you're probably not gonna like it. But I would definitely say log in, check it out. It's pretty rad. I like the videos. I like the searchability. It's awesome. So there you
Appreciate it,
go.
man. Thank you.
There's your outside third party unbiased pitch right there. Well, cool. So, all right. So we can't get off this call without talking about a tip or trick for contractors that use ServiceTitan. So what's one of the features that is super easy, which by the way, he didn't know I was going to ask this question. So this might be a curveball for you, man. So what is one feature that most people aren't using that if they used just would make it easier for them in their ServiceTitan journey?
Um, there's a few features, Justin, that I feel like haven't gotten utilized as much as they could be that make the lives of technicians a lot easier. I think technicians tend to kind of get the short end of the stick sometimes because they're just out there in the field. They use ServiceTitan. They're not typically companies aren't sharing quite as much about how ServiceTitan works, and so the line between what is just how ServiceTitan works and that's how it is, and what could be changed if the company did something different isn't as clear to them. So they don't even know to ask, "Hey, can you do this for
Right.
me?" So things like conditional logic within forms, I think it could be much better utilized by a lot of people. This is what allows you to set rules within a form so that if questions aren't relevant in a certain situation, they just don't show up. They're just not cluttering up the form. They're not in the technician's way. So if you're doing, a heat pump, for example, there's not a bunch of questions about furnaces on the form that are just in the way. You just
All
answer.
right. Give us that. What is that called one more time? Because I'm gonna
That is
I'm gonna
called
make sure and put that
conditional
in the
logic.
notes.
Conditional
Conditional
logic. So
logic.
if you go to build a form, you'll see options for conditional logic. I've got videos, including public facing free videos on conditional logic and forms. So if you need help with it, resources are out there. Something else that's a little bit more recent is configurable services. This is a price book feature. And this allows you to condense multiple materials into one service. So let's say I'm an HVAC guy, so I always use HVAC examples so I don't embarrass myself. Let's say you've got capacitors. Capacitors come in all sorts of different sizes. Before, traditionally, in order to properly track inventory and stuff, you would have to have different services, different line items in your price book for every individual variant of a capacitor that you sell. Now there's a feature called configurable services where you can put all of those into one. So you can just say, hey, I'm selling a capacitor. And then it will ask you which of these materials, which of these specific capacitors are you going to be using on this job? And then that combines very well with dynamic pricing, which automatically calculates the price based on various factors, including the material cost. When you choose a different capacitor, if one is more expensive, the price changes accordingly. That way, the price book is less cluttered, easier for your technicians to sift through, and less just room for human error. Anywhere you can eliminate a chance for a human to make a mistake, you should do that because it helps everybody, right? Like humans make mistakes. We just know that about ourselves. Um, Managers can sometimes get bent out of shape about people making the same mistake over and over again. If you can use tools at your disposal to make the mistake near impossible to make, do that. It makes everybody's life better.
And both of those are just parts of ServiceTitan. That's not a pro product. That's not an add-on,
Both of
right? Those
those
are
are, in
both of those.
fact, free to use. The configurable services, there is an enhanced version of it if you have Pricebook Pro. That just does some automatic mapping with AI that you don't get with the standard version. With the standard version, you have to manually map. If you've got your capacitors, you have to manually pick them all out. But you get a version of it either way. It's free to use.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. So, man, I appreciate you coming and hanging out. Again, Richard Kohberger, the blue collar nerd. Um, can we call you the ServiceTitan genius?
I mean, you can call me whatever
It's
you want to
done.
call me.
I've already done it.
All
It's
right.
done.
Okay.
Tell Ara that's your new title,
All right.
ServiceTitan
I'll let him
genius.
know. I'll let him know right now. That comes with a pay raise, right?
Like 100%, I think. I'm pretty
Okay,
sure.
okay. I'll let him know. I'll email him right now.
Very cool. So if you'd like to connect with Richard, what's the best way for anybody to connect with you if they have any questions or want to find out more about all the stuff?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, bluecollarnerd.com. If your question's not answered there, Facebook is usually the best place to get a hold of me. That's where I kind of monitor the ServiceTitan Masterminds group, and I've also got my own little Blue Collar Nerd page, and that tends to be where most people in this industry are hanging out, at least in my experience, and so that's where I hang out too.
Okay. Well, very cool. Well, Richard, I appreciate it, man. It's so good to catch up with you. It's been a long time, but we're going to catch up soon, man.
Yeah, let's do it again sometime, man. Super fun.
All right. We'll see you, man.
Yeah.